talk about Splunk here, right? So what we'll talk about in Splunk is, before I give you, even you show the console, is the features of Splunk, the components, the users, getting data to Splunk, how the Splunk architecture really looks like. We'll look at the Splunk UI, basic searching, running the searches. We'll look at user fields. We'll look at the Splunk language fundamentals. I'll try to give you a lot of material in terms of Splunk as such. What the commands, how you can write a query, how you can easily pick, write multiple complex queries in Splunk itself. Like you have tables, renames, fields, deduplication, and then basic transform command. How do you search data? How do you trim your data in terms of showing you specific activities? um, and then and then how do you create reports and dashboards, and how do you create alerts in Splunk itself? Okay, so Splunk again is an SIM solution. We all know, people, some of you might have already used it or are using it, or some of you might have not heard about it. um, so Splunk was initially used by IT ops, like any other traditional tool, but gradually, I think 2013, 20, that time onwards, it started moving into something called as enterprise security. So they had like Splunk Enterprise, which was like a corporate IT based, IT ops based solution. Then when they understood that security is the other area where they need this solution, like ArcSight was coming in, they started using the enterprise security module, or they started deploying enterprise security for SOC teams on Splunk itself. So what does it this Splunk provides you ability to search, analyze, visualize, index, create reports, and create visualizations uh, using this Splunk. So it can do a lot of things. It, as I said, basically how Splunk logs the data is like your traditional book. Like you have indexes. Under the indexes, you have specific fields. Like under specific chapters. Similarly, under indexes, you'll have specific. You have index where it'll talk about specific chapters. In specific chapters, you'll have detailed content. Similar way, you have your indexes, your subset of the data, and what and how you can search and query the data. So the five main features, as I said, is indexing. Splunk indexes machine data, allows you to search or navigate the data, allows you to create alerts for data, like trigger conditions. When the trigger condition is met, you can generate an alert, an email alert to a specific team, or generate an alert in a specific what do you call, to an email box, right? And then you can generate a report based on specific activity. Yeah, and then you can do a specific report for your management or for your own team, and then figure out what really happened there, right? And then you can have dashboards, like specific control panes where you can go look at it and figure out what in last 24 hours, what really happened, what really happened, and then show it to your managers, show it to your team, so that it provides you to our clients as well. If you want to give them a dashboard kind of a view, allows you to have a view saying that okay, in last 24 hours, what really happened, what are my top talkers, what are my top users, what are my top IPs which are doing the activity, and so forth, right? So it allows you a lot of paint a picture of what really happened in the last 24 hours or 48 hours, or for a particular user, or for a particular IP address. So what are the components of Splunk? How really Splunk really works, right? So you have uh, basically your log sources, which are forwarders, right? These are basically forwarders are installed, or nothing but small agents installed on data sources, like on servers, desktops, like if you have a desktop, or act domain controllers, or you're on web servers, or in firewalls, or syslog servers, or endpoint security servers, or anything else for that matter, router switches. So you can install these forwarders, and then these forwarders will act like data collectors. They'll collect the logs and then push it back to the indexers. These indexes are nothing but data aggregators. They collect a lot of logs and then store in them, and then they'll parse, aggregate, and do all this mechanism, massage the logs basically, to make them really what do you call, makes they add value to the log, and say that this is what's really happening. right? And this is what really happens and for the log when somebody reads it. Then you have something called as search heads. These search heads are nothing but are the interface between the user and the indexers. So okay, let me show an example. Yeah, so this, if I say localhost, this is my search head. So this allows me to give me a UI which can interface between the indexer and between me for me to run a search, right? So typically what search heads in this example would typically does is I can log on to a search head, and then this will query data back and forth between the indexers. So if I write a query saying that index is equal to Windows and query for any failed login items in last 24 hours, right? So indexer will take the data, search heads will take the data, will formulate the search, write the search, and will go back and use the search on the indexers to query the data, and then will show and represent it back to me as a user in a UI format, in a web format, right? In the web page. And then I can see, okay, this is what I want, and then I can write my further queries, further data, and then I can do all possible combinations and permutations of searches, which will allow me to search the data, right? um, and then like, yeah, this is a typical format of how Splunk is deployed in an organization. Like you have apps. So what really happens is your search heads will have something called as apps. Like if I say you have a Cisco firewall, right? So if how many? Let me ask you this: how many of you have really worked with Cisco ASA logs or Cisco firewall logs? None. So if I give you a Splunk instance and ask you to search for Splunk Cisco ASA logs, would you think how much time do you think it will take for you to understand these logs? A lot of time, right? Possibly a day or two to really figure out, understand how it's really working. So for 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 the analyst, for to help the analyst, what Cisco does is they create an app which is defined in a way which already understands the log and can create automated reports and alerts and within an app. Like, so they have this app which provides you all the necessary dashboards uh, and direct format. So when you install this app, it goes, reads the Cisco data, and then provides you these reports, dashboards, and alerts pre-built. So you as an analyst will not have to break your head to go and understand these logs, right? So that's how Splunk provides you with these apps, which will help you kind of straightforward and really understand. Just deploy the app on a Cisco log or a Cisco index and say that, okay, app, tell me what's really happening. So app does the magic of understanding the log, parsing the logs, putting the right fields in right places, populating the dashboard, populating the alerts, populating the reports, and showing you what really happened in the last 24 hours. So that you don't have to go write, understand the logs and write the queries and then go forward from there on. So you'll waste valuable time there on. So so these apps work on behalf of you to really understand the logs, and it comes from the company itself or from some third-party guy who writes these apps, and so that says that hey SOC guys, if you are using FortiGate, Juniper, or any other such firewall, use this app, and these are the defined reports or dashboards you should be monitoring. Straightforward helps you a lot. Then you have your forwarders. These forwarder apps are nothing but, as I said, agents which are installed on these data sources, which helps you push the data to the indexers, which does the magics. So the indexers are nothing but which helps you massage, aggregate, parse the logs properly, and then give you that context or the field names to search the data against. Then you have your receivers. Again, receivers can be intermediary data sources or intermediary servers, which helps you receive the data, hold it in such a place, and then forward it to the indexers based on the load which is taking. Then you have your search heads, which are nothing but an interface for a user, so that I can log on to the search head and search for the data. So what really happens is, if you have large Splunk deployment, so you'll not have one search head, but you have multiple search heads deployed in your own organization, so that you can, so suppose in my previous organization or in my current organization as well, SOC has dedicated search head. so that whatever however heavy searches I can run, it will not go down, because there are no other teams in my entire organization are using my own search head. And you can give specific permission to search heads that this search head will have access to all the data sources across my enterprise, and will be able to have enterprise security app as such, which has predefined search or predefined security related dashboards pre-built, right? If I have a search head which is given to, say, suppose development team, their search head will only look at their application data and nothing else, so that nobody else is using or looking at other teams data. So you can segregate, create search heads for a specific team, and only show data which is they are interested in, right? Then you have search peers. These search peers allows you to uh, take the request from the search head, do the running around, help the search to run faster, and then provide the data back and forth between the search head and the indexers. Then you have Splunk users. Then you have administrators. You have your Splunk administrators who have access to everything in an organization in the Splunk. Then you have knowledge managers who help you configure the data, and configure the data source, configure your operations and everything else in your instance, right? Then you have your search users, which is the normal IT ops guy or IT users or the security guys, who can search the data for. Then you have your pivot users. Again, these are possibly allows you to pivot data. I'm really not sure how. I have not used pivot users as such anytime. Who can probably allowed to go look at what pivot users really does, but I'll gather this information for you. Then you have developers who can develop custom apps for Splunk, right? These are the developers who has the understanding of how Splunk really works. They can write code, they can write custom code to for an apps which can be used in-house by the team, for specific custom purposes, right? Splunk and your IT infrastructure. So Splunk can collect data from machines located anywhere, local, remote, cloud, and hybrid. So in the current Splunk cloud deployment, some of my infrastructure is hosted in Azure. Some of the instances hosted in AWS. Some of the instances are hosted on, or some of the data sources are hosted on my on-premise solution, on-premise. So I can configure any of the solutions or any of these data sources to go in and to my Splunk Cloud or Splunk Enterprise. So I can collect data from anywhere practically. So how do you access to Splunk Enterprise? It's by a web interface. Your CLI is also available, but I have not used CLI. You cannot, you have the capacity to do a lot of things, but you need to really break your head to get the CLI really working and to query the CLI. So basically 99.9%, I think everybody, SOC teams usually use the Splunk Enterprise through a web interface. And that's the easiest way you can use. Even when you're connected by VPN or from a cloud, you will have your enterprise Splunk Enterprise via web. Then you have your multiple users can use the Splunk instance at given point of time. You don't have a restriction, and then you can have a role based access control in the Splunk, so that people with SOC team can have more access, people with development team or with other IT teams can have restricted access, so that they don't look at other indexes which SOC team should be looking at, right? Let's look at your deployment and architecture as such. So Splunk, as I said, you probably, some of the single instances where you want to deploy, you have to have like a 12 core CPU with 12 GB RAM with 800 input output operations per second. That's a scope of it, like a single environment. But if you have a distributed environment, you need to have multiples of these things, right? You need to have 12 core like a 32 GB RAM with, say, suppose 1600 IOPs, or a hybrid model, or a cluster model where you have single instance of these 12 core 12 GB 800 IOPs installed in a cluster manner, so that they kind of support each other when the load is really high, right? And then you can deploy the indexer and the search heads as well. So that's how both really works in tandem. A single environment will come with a search head and an indexer, and obviously the forwarders will be there. So the typical architecture, will be your data sources. Your data sources will talk to the forwarders, or the forwarders will eventually talk to the data sources, and will figure out at what frequency they need to collect the data from. And the forwarder's job the forwarder's job is to push the data toward the indexers. Indexes can be any number of indexes can be there, which can index the data, and then take the load from the incoming forwarders. You can have a heavy forwarder, which we can have a lightweight forwarder. Heavy forwarders are nothing but they have a large input output operations capacity, which can collect a lot of data from multiple data sources, and then they can have the processing power to forward the data to the indexers, where they index the data according to the data type which is coming in. So suppose you are gathering data for endpoints like antivirus, so indexers will have an index for antivirus, so the logs will go into the index data, antivirus index, and then they'll get passed, massaged properly, and then the fields will be enumerated. Everything will happen at the indexers part. And then you have your distributor search heads, and summary indexers, where you have other tier of multiple tier, where you have search heads and the summary indexers, which will pull the metadata out of the indexers and say that, okay, now I've got so much data, let me understand what type of data do I have got. At a glance, can I really understand Splunk inside Splunk type of data? So really, you really need to understand what you're collecting. Indexes will collect the data, but Splunk will do an introspection of what it's really collecting. How much my indexes have really collected, how many events it has collected, events per second, in terms of how much data sources, license limits, and everything else is what the summary indexing tier will really work out for. Right, and it'll help out the search set to really tell us what type of load am I taking in, and then something needs to be done in terms of reducing or increasing the Splunk load, or indexing load. And then you have your distributed search head, where users can come in and search the data in. But I think if you look at Splunk, you have two pieces to Splunk. When you can search of how Splunk is acting or interacting with the data, and then you can use Splunk to interact with the data which you have really collected. So there are two pieces to Splunk as well. So the Splunk administrators will look at what Splunk is doing in the backend in terms of how it's collecting, what it's doing, like a summary index, or a statistical index of what the data is collected. Let's say suppose how many logs have I collected in the last 24 hours. Breakdown of how much amount of data per index is storing. Like, so suppose antivirus index is storing 10 GB, firewall index is storing 15 GB or 100 GB for that matter. So it will allow you to do that summary indexing, and then provide you the ability to really look at what you're collecting in a day-to-day manner, right? So then you can scale to hundreds of terabytes per day, based on how your enterprise is spread out. So you have your search heads, indexer, and forwarders. You can have your initiate searches and visualize the results on the search heads. Your indexers allows you to compress and store data. Your forwarders collects the data from thousands of different multiple data sources, and forward the data to the indexers for them to really work on, and allow the search heads to really target and ask questions for. So when I say that, your typical UI would look like this, and I have basically gone ahead and said that I would add my local host data. So I can add my own laptops or desktops data, like a Windows logs, to my my Splunk instance and say that, upload from my computer. So I can have a sample data, upload from my computer. I can install a forwarder, install a server and push the forwarder onto the remote VM or the server which I installed on the virtual machine, and then get the data from there and run. And I can, this is how I push my operating system data. So if I go back, and then come on, yeah, say index is equal to star. In last 24 hours, it shows everything happened with my Windows type. Now these are the three different type of data which I'm collecting, which is the system, security, and application logs from my own desktop here, right? So I can use, so as an example of me talking about my search head, this local instance, localhost 800 or 8000 port is my search head. My indexer is also sitting on my own machine here, and my forwarder is also sitting on my own machine here. But I can actually spread it out and make sure that it's there on other machines. It's collecting data from other machines as well, right? So yeah. So then you have, in the current situation, in the current 2019 situation, everybody's trying to move towards your Splunk cloud, where you have got a heavy, lightweight, or universal forwarder, where you can install any of these forwarders and then get type of data which you're looking for, like REST APIs, your local files, your TCP, your script or Hadoop or databases or AWS, or for Splunk itself, or from Splunk instance. So you can get into the cloud and use the cloud instance of Splunk to really interact and search the data against, right? So let me stop here before I move on. Any questions so far?
Yeah, Kishore, I have one doubt.
Sure.
Like, if you purchase the Splunk Enterprise, okay, and so the basic functionality of Splunk is the log analysis and reporting and all that. Okay, but for the security SIM solution, it's have the additional cost you have to purchase again, or
Yep.
it is included into?
Yeah, no. It's so the bare minimum Splunk comes as a Splunk Enterprise, but you need to buy the Enterprise Security Module app in Splunk.
Right.
Yeah. So you need to buy that Enterprise Security. Let me show you Splunk Enterprise
No,
Security.
my question is, I have an enterprise edition. Okay, that I'm doing the basic log alerting or log dash reporting for the users. I'm not using for the security.
Correct.
So when I purchase the security SIM solution, how it differs from the enterprise? Because all the functionality I'm already doing it.
Yeah. So the way it differs is, as I told you, it's an app, right? It's basically an app. So okay, hold on. Let me. I'll probably want to.
Kishore?
Yep.
Do you need to install the enterprise security also?
No, you will not be able to download that or install that. You need to buy that. Only on a licensed version you'll be able to buy that.
Okay.
So
on top of Splunk.
Yeah, on top of Splunk. So for Abhishek,
So
to your
any
point,
free trial is there for the security?
you need to be a corporate, you need to be an organization to even do a trial for enterprise security. As an individual user, you cannot do an enterprise security trial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So since I'll tell you what, see, enterprise, so it's a package. If you guys are seeing my screen, the normal Splunk will not provide you all these things here: the endpoints, network, identity, audit, threat, UBA, access tools, notable events, the top sources. These are all, it's not provided by these traditional Splunk. Only enterprise security provides that. On top of it, you have this incident review dashboard, you have your advanced threat dashboards, you have your security domains, which is like access, network. So for, say, suppose firewall is nothing but your network. So you have a specific set of dashboards, which is typically looking at firewall data from a security standpoint and providing you this data. This is not provided in your Splunk instance, normal Splunk, traditional Splunk instance. Only in enterprise security, you get this package or all pre-built dashboards or a single pane of glass which can run multiple reports.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so that's the difference of it, right? So
Kishore,
yeah.
I need some favor from you.
Sure.
If you have any real time the PPT for that, if you are using that, that would be very helpful.
So what I'll do is I'll probably see. I in my own organization I use Splunk. I use the enterprise security. For NDA reasons, I cannot show you the demo, right? Because it's company proprietary data.
Yeah, I can understand that. But
what I'll do is I'll give you a screenshots, probably attach some data and give you some of the drop downs here, and then show you probably in the next class. That I can do for you. That's not a big deal.